Welcome back to the channel, and in this video today what we're going to be doing is creating this one using AutoCAD. So I'm going to create 3 views. I should have enough time to be able to create the isometric for you as well, and then we're going to also create a drawing, and I haven't decided yet. I guess as we go through this we'll kind of decide whether we want to do this in paper space or model space, and I'm leaning more toward paper space as I'm talking about it here. So we will take a look at drawing this, doing the isometric, and creating a paper space drawing out of this one, right? So hopefully that's something that you're interested in. So let's go ahead and jump to AutoCAD and get started. Okay, so here in AutoCAD, let's go ahead and do some of our normal stuff that we do. I'll go ahead and turn the grid off. I usually like working with my ortho turned on, so that's going to be this button here. And I'll also take a look at what running O snaps that I'm going to be using. So these are going to be the ones that I'm going to be using for this video. Now I may add or may take some off, but these are typically the ones that I'm going to need. Okay, so let's first start off by creating the most complex view here, and in my opinion it's going to be the top view. So I'm just going to start off with a rectangle. I'll go ahead and click here, and I know that the overall dimensions of this is going to be 70, 40. All right, so there is my rectangle that I need to kind of base this thing off of. Okay, now here you have an option that you can either explode this rectangle or you can keep it all whole, and I'll show you the benefits of doing both of them. So if we explode this, remember that breaks this up into individual lines. It helps, when you're going to offset things and doing some other commands of that nature. We can move lines and things of that nature. And then at the end, we can come back and then join it back together to make it a rectangle. If that's something that you don't want to do, you can also use the construction line command. And I'm just going to type these commands in. So I can go to XL, I can hit enter, and then this has a built-in offset on the inside of it. So then I can go to offset here. I can type in the number, which is 12.5. Go ahead and hit enter. And then I'm just going to offset this line here down this way, and then this line up to this way, right? So that's doing it if you do have a part that is joined together. So it's got to be a polyline. Now I'm just going to go ahead and explode this, and we can select the object first, and then go ahead and use the explode. And this is more or less the traditional way that you would see most people do this. All right, so I'll go ahead and select this line here. Go ahead and use the copy command. I'm just going to give it a base point here. I'm going to go this direction. Remember, I do have my ortho turned on. I'll type in 30, enter, and then 40, enter. Okay, so that's going to give me my 2 lines here. Let's go ahead and kind of do some other stuff here since I'm thinking about it. Let's go ahead and put the line that goes across from here to here. And then for this line here, I'll give you a couple of different options, the way of doing this. There is absolutely nothing wrong with offsetting this line or copying this line down a distance of 10 and then connect those 2 endpoints. Or we can just start with the line command. I want you to go ahead and touch this endpoint. I'm just going to move my cursor here to the outside, and now you can see that I'm tracking off of it. As long as I'm directly below it, I'm just going to type in 10. Go ahead and hit enter, and then I'll go to this endpoint. All right, so that might be one of the things. Oh, my ortho was on. Let me just hit the U button. That'll take me back to where I was. I just needed to go right to that endpoint. There we go. All right, that's one other option that you can do. Now, be careful, because most people will look at this and say, hey, I can offset this. And in reality, you can, but you're not going to have the right dimension to offset it. Remember, offset goes from the distance between this line to this line. So if I go ahead and I check that dimension for you, and I'm just going to do a DAL, and I go from that endpoint to where perpendicular is here, and let's zoom in, you're going to see that that number is not 10. So be careful when you use the offset command. All right, so therefore that's why I had to do it the way that I did it. All right, so we have that done, and now we just need to go ahead and kind of finish trimming out some of this top stuff here. Let's go ahead and get rid of here, and then use the trim command, so TR. And then what I like to do is I like to start from the farthest point, and then I'll just kind of walk my shape backwards, right? So that's what you're seeing me do here. It's just kind of walk these shapes backwards, and then I'll trim off this portion here. All right, so that's all we needed to do for the top portion. And that, explains everything that we need to see here. Let's go ahead and create the front view. So I'm just going to kind of come down from this. I'm going to go back to the rectangle command. I'm going to touch that endpoint, and then I'm just going to track down right about here. Looks good to me. I'll do a left click here. Now remember that I have to type in the coordinates here, right? So I know that it's going 70 in the X direction, and I want to go down. So I want to go a negative value in the Y direction, which is 40. So therefore I'll type in 70, comma, negative 40. And when I hit enter, you're going to see that it will produce that shape down here. Okay? Next, let's go ahead and get some references from off the top here. So I'm just going to use a construction line. Remember, the shortcut for construction is XL. If you do want to know where it's at, it's going to be located at this icon here. I have to tell it that I want to create a vertical line. And then I'm just going to select these two endpoints. Okay, so now that gives me where this is located in reference to how it's running that direction, right? All right, remember that this is all connected again, so let's go ahead and explode this. Then we're going to go ahead and use the offset command. So I'll go to offset. Let's type in a distance of, you know what, in my case I think copy would be better. Because if I offset, I have to break the command and do it twice. Let's use a copy. So I'm going to select this line here. Let's go ahead and use copy. So CO, hit enter, pick a base point, and then that's going to allow me to just type in 10, enter, and then 15, enter. Okay. So now I know exactly what's going on here. I know that this shape comes this way, and then it kind of comes down. It goes that way, and then down. Right? So we can go ahead and trim out this stuff here. Let's go in back to the trim command. I'm going to wipe out here. I'm just going to take off all of this stuff here. These ones at the top I'm not worried about yet. And we know how this works, right? So we're going to trim off here, this point here, and then that point, and then finally here. Okay? So that's the portion of this that's running along, going to the back there, right? Now this is not going all the way down. I actually should have stopped this and sent it up, but no need. Let's go back to the extend command. And extend is always located underneath the trim. So extend. I meant to have this line extended up. And now I'm just going to hold down the shift button on my keyboard here and trim off this bottom portion. Okay. That's what I meant to have this look like. All right, let's go ahead and erase these top lines here. And next we're going to start working on what's happening going on here. So once again, we're going to go back to the construction lines. We're going to choose vertical. We're just going to select these two endpoints. And then we're going to come here and we're going to use the offset command. Give it a distance of 20. And then we're going to offset this line down. All right. Instead of using the trim command this time, I'm going to use the fillet command. So I'll go to fillet. I always verify that my radius is set to 0. And then I'm going to tell it that I have multiple. And then remember how fillet works is that we're going to select the two sides that we want to keep. So I'm selecting here. Likewise here. And then I'll escape out of that. And then I'll go ahead and give it one quick trim command going right across the top here. And then if I zoom out, you should see that that view is actually created. Okay, now we have another view of this that's showing up here. When we're creating these, what I usually like to do is I'll create these three primary views, and if I don't need them, I'll go ahead and delete a view later. Okay, so I'll go ahead and create this right side view of it. Remember that the right side view of this is sitting at 40, 40, right? And it's going to be a perfect square over here. But what I want you to do is that I'm looking at it, the right side of it, and I'm actually looking at it going that direction. So what I'm going to do here is take this and I'm going to take a copy of this top portion here. And then I'm just going to copy it to here, right? And then we're going to use the rotate command. And we're going to select here. I'll go here. And then I'm just going to rotate this thing at a 90 degrees, right? Or if you're talking counterclockwise, remember, so it's going to be a negative 90 if you're actually typing in the numbers. So if I type in 90, I meant to go negative 90 for the clockwise rotation, but it's upside down now. I'll just go ahead and rotate it 180 degrees. Okay, let me kind of move this over a little bit. All right, so here's our shape. We want to create our view down here at the bottom. Let's kind of get this in the frame here. I'm just going to go with a rectangle. Now, if I didn't know the numbers, I do have these two views, and I'm going to use, this is a good time to use OSnap tracking. So I'm just going to touch that endpoint, and then touch that endpoint, and then where these two intersect, do a left click here. Once again, touch that endpoint, touch that endpoint, and then bring it over here to where those two intersect, and do a left click, right? So now I do have that rectangle, and if I put dimensions on it, it will be at 40, 40. All right, let's see. So the next thing I need to do is start building on here. I'm just going to go ahead and explode this, and I'll go to the copy command again. Select this line here. I want to go from here, going up a distance of 10, enter, and then 15, enter, right? So I have those two numbers, and that's what I'm going to use to create my step width. Remember that distance that's going over from here to here, it should be 10, or I can just project down from this line here. So either way is fine. I'm just going to draw a line. I'm just going to touch that, come straight down to here, and where it intersects, I'm going to do a left click here, down to where it perpendicular is here. Okay, let's go ahead and trim this portion off. So I'm just going to go to trim. I'm going to take away that portion and that portion. Okay. Next, I'll go ahead and put this kind of U shape here at the top of it. Remember that we do have the lines up here at the top, and we do have the lines over here at the side. So if I go to the line command, all I have to do is touch that intersection, come down to where it intersects here, do a left click, come down, go and touch that endpoint, come over this direction, place it here. I know the distance that goes over here is set to, let's see, 20. And that was from our, 15. That was set from before. Our depth is 20. Or we can just simply touch that endpoint, and where it's going to line up with that intersection, do a left click there, and then come directly above it and there. Okay. Now this port we can see all the way through. So I will trim right between here. And once we delete this view here, we have all of our views created, right? So we do have our left, right, and our top view. Okay, so that's all we need for the basic portion of this. Now let's start working on the isometric. All right, so remember that to set up the isometric, it's just simply selecting here. That's going to put me in an ISO draft. You should see that your cursor should move, or icon should move. And remember that we control that with the F5 key, or you can come next to it and then you can select which ISO left, top, or right that you want to be in. And we're going to start off on ISO left in this case. Another thing that I always like to do, or make sure that I'm doing when I'm working with isometrics, is make sure that my ortho is on. So that's super important to you. Keep the ortho on anytime you're dealing with these. All right, so let's start with the line command, and I'm going to click here. I'll go down a distance of 40. I'm going to come this direction, a distance of, let's see, 70. And then we're going to go up a height of 15. We're going to go back this direction, 30. We're going to come down a distance of 5. We're going to go over a distance of 10. Next, I want to come up. And then I need to kind of stop where this is at. So I'm just going to touch that end point. And now you're going to see as it kind of comes up, it should stop at that end point there. I'll do a left click there. And then I'll go to that end point. Okay. So there's our left side view of this that is created. Let's go ahead and start working on the right side view. Just kind of give myself a little bit more room here. Let's go to the line command. Let's go ahead and start working on ISO right. I'm just going to start at this end point. I'm going to go here over a distance of 40. We're going to go up a distance of 10. We're going to come back here to the left a distance of 10. We're going to go up a distance of 5. And then we should be able to come directly to that endpoint, which is located here. All right, let's go ahead and connect some of these lines here. So I can connect that line from that endpoint to that one. And now if I kind of take a look more into this, if I go a line that goes directly across, it's going to wind up overlapping that. So in this case, it's totally okay for you to go ahead and select here to here, and from that endpoint to that endpoint. Okay. Next, let's start working on the top portion here. So I'm just going to jump over to ISO top. All right, so we're going to start by drawing a line going this direction. And we're going to make that line 12.5. I'm just going to send it forward this direction. I don't know that distance yet. Next, I'm going to come back and create another line going this direction at 15. I'm just going to draw a line going up this direction. Once again, I don't know that distance yet, but I'm going to let AutoCAD kind of figure that part out for me. And then I'll draw a line going from that endpoint again, 12.5, and I'm going to send this going up this direction. Okay, so next what I need to do is I'm going to use the fillet command. Remember that my radius is already set to 0, and I'm just going to select this line here. I want to select that side of the line I want to keep, and then this side, right? Next, I'm going to start with the line, and I'm just going to go from this endpoint directly to that endpoint. So this is what I was meaning before. I don't know exactly how far that goes, but I'm going to go ahead and delete that line there in the back. I'm going to trim off this in the front here. So I'm just going to trim here, and also between here. Let's go with a line going from this endpoint, and let me go ahead and switch to an isometric right. And I want to go down a distance of 20. Now I just can't go straight across here. Remember that these are isometrics and that line is not exactly the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this line from this endpoint, and I'm just going to place it at that endpoint also here in the back, right? So that way I can see exactly where that line hits in the back. All right. Next, I'm going to go ahead and copy this line here, and I'll go from that endpoint to that endpoint. There's no need for me to put it on this endpoint as it's not going to show through there. And then finally, I'll go ahead and create a line going from that endpoint going straight across. All right, go ahead and trim this off. So I'm just trimming between here and here. One more here. Okay, so now the isometric portion of this is done. Now remember I said I'm going to do this in paper space. So what I'm going to do is, since I know that I'm going to do this in paper space, I'm going to go ahead and turn my isometric off here. And then I'm just going to go ahead and move this to some other location. And this is the beauty of doing things in paper space. Everything don't have to be traditionally lined up as they were. And just to even further complicate this even more for you, just to show you the benefit of this, ideally you would keep these in line with each other. But say that you drew these, and I'm just going to turn the ortho off, in some kind of random portion here, right? So you can see that none of these are in our traditional format, but I just wanted to show you a little bit more of what you can do if you're dealing with stuff in paper space. So they don't have to be exactly in line with each other and things of that nature, okay? Before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and put some hidden lines and things of that nature on our drawing here, just so we know where, everything is, okay? So let's go ahead and create a layer. And we're going to go ahead and create a couple of layers here. Let's go ahead and put that here. The first one I'm going to create is going to be a center layer, right? In our case, in this one, we don't have any center lines. It's just good practice to keep doing that, or making sure that I create one. But we do have a hidden layer, right? I want to show you another thing, what is typically most people will do. And then they will put their lines kind of on a layer. It looks like it didn't give it a name there. But I'm just going to change this to my lines just so I can show my lines on a different layer, because when I go to print this, I'll have a little bit more control over them. Okay. And let's see, one more that I need. I should need a dimension layer as well. Okay. So let's go ahead and start assigning these some different values. So let's make the dimension layer, we can make that red. Let's make our lines layer here. I'm thinking of green. Green should show up. Let's make it yellow. I don't think we made too many things yellow. Let's go ahead and make our hidden lines here. Let's go ahead and make those cyan. And then we finally have our center layers here. And then we're going to make the center layers, let's make them green. Let's go ahead and make sure we know what line type we want them. So our dimensions, they're going to be continuous. Our lines will be continuous. Our hidden lines, let's go ahead and change the line weight of that. Not the line weight. The line type, which is continuous. I'm going to go to load. I'm going to go find hidden 2. Go ahead and select there and then select it here. So that'll make that one to hidden. And then we'll go ahead and do the same for center. And in this case, we don't actually have any center lines. Everything's are all straight lines. So we'll go ahead and select center 2 here. Go ahead and hit the OK button. And then I'll go ahead and select center and then hit the OK button. Now, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my lines show up. If I create a PDF of this, I want them to be nice and thick. So you see where I selected the line, and then I select it here under the default of the line type. Let's go ahead and make that line type, let's call it maybe a 0.6. Okay, go ahead and hit the OK. You should see the line weight on this change. Then we're going to close this. I'm going to select my whole entire drawing here, and I'm just going to go ahead and put it on that layer that's called line. Okay, so now we have all of our line types created. We have our layers created, except for one more that I will, but I'll just leave that on the 0 layer. We're ready to start putting our hidden lines on here. So if I'm looking here at the top view, there are no hidden lines, there are no hidden surfaces that are shown. On this view, there are a couple. So I'm just going to draw a line going from here straight across. Let's go ahead and put our ortho back on. And then we have one more that's going from this endpoint going that direction. All right, I'm just going to select both of these and place them on that hidden layer for me. Don't look like it changed them. It changed them for a second, but maybe I hit escape too fast. Okay. All right, so I don't want you to worry about if you can see the dashes or not at this point. Remember that we are using paper space, so we don't have to worry about adjusting the line type scale. Let's do one more line here. So I do have a hidden surface that is showing straight across here. And then we can make sure that we can go ahead and put that on the hidden layer as well. Okay. All right, so we have all of our views done. Now just remind you that I did this intentionally, having everything scrambled. So when I jump over to the layout tab, this is what we're looking at. And I do apologize that you can't see that yellow so well. I can go back and change that color if it does continue to be a problem, and I might wind up doing that. But let's go ahead and delete this viewport here just to show you how to create one from scratch. I'm going to go ahead and create a rectangle. I'm going to place it at 0, 0, and then I'll place the other end at 17, 11. Now you should know what size title block that is, and I will show you what size that is when we get to showing the print and print preview and stuff of that nature. Offset, let's go ahead and give it a distance of 0.25. So offset that to the inside. Now this is my title block, right? This line here on the outside, I'm just going to go ahead and put it on the depth points layer. Now remember, the depth point only shows up because I created a dimension. So if you don't have that, that just means that you haven't created a dimension. Okay, let's do a right click on layout 1 And then let's go to Page Setup Manager. From here, we'll go to Modify, DWG to PDF. Now, if you didn't catch on what size title block I did draw there, it's going to be a B size, right? So here's the dimensions for it. It's an ANSI full bleed B size, 17 by 11. I usually like to set this to a window. And then I'm just going to select this inside. So from here to here, what I usually like to select. Okay. I'm going to center this. It's going to be 1 to 1. I'm just going to go ahead and tell it to print everything black by selecting monochrome. And I think that should be everything that I need. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit the OK button and then close. Okay. So now that we're in paper space, you'll notice that I do get a layout tab up here at the top. Let's go ahead and select that. And this is where you're going to find ways to create another viewport. A viewport is going to be listed underneath rectangular. And once I make a viewport here, I'll go ahead and make it that big. You're going to see all of those views pop up from below or from behind. Let me jump over back to the Home tab here, to the layers. And I'm going to make this yellow color here. I'm just going to make it a nice dark blue. Okay. Now you should be able to see those a lot clearer. All right, so I want to make this the front view, right? So I want you to double click and you're going to see these bold lines around it. That's going to activate this viewport for you. Go ahead and zoom in a little bit. And then this is how you're going to determine what's your scale here. So I'm just going to go ahead and select here and say I want to see if this is going to fall at a 16 or a 12, right? So if I try a 12 first, which is going to be here, 1 inch equals a foot, you see that I do get that to fall into there, and that looks good to me. All right. So I see that this is the viewport. I see that I have my scale set, and now remember this scale because I'm going to use this for all of my other views. And another thing I want you to do is get into the habit of locking your viewports. So I'm going to go ahead and lock that viewport. And what this does is that just in case you try to scroll in and out or pan in and over while you're inside of that viewport, you will not lose your view. Okay. So I have that done now. I'm just going to double click to the outside here. Jump back to the layout tab. Click rectangular. I'm just going to draw another rectangular one here. Double clicking on the inside here. I'm going to zoom into the viewport that I want. Remember, I'm going to set it to the exact same size as my other one. And then from here, I'm going to go ahead and lock it. All right. I'm just going to double click here on the outside. Now remember that these views must be in line with each other. So I can use the regular move command, select this viewport, grab that endpoint, and place it onto that endpoint. And then what I'm going to do next is just move this, make sure your ortho is on, and just move it straight across to here. All right. Let's go ahead and create our top view on here. Once again, we're going to do our rectangular. I'll put a window up here. Double click on the inside of that viewport. Kind of get the view that I want right in frame here. Then I'll go ahead and select what I want it to be. Lock my viewport. And then I'll double click to the outside. Then I'll just use the regular move commands like we did before. So I'll go to move. I'm going to go from this endpoint to that endpoint. Then I'll go ahead and move this going up. Just making sure everything stays in line with each other. Okay. Now we have all of these kind of shown. Here's the only downside to whenever you're creating viewports. If I go to print this, and I'm just going to use a Control-P on my keyboard, the dialog should pop up with all of the information that we kind of saved in the Page Setup Manager, but I want you to hit the preview button here. You're going to see that it's going to give me my shape in bold, which is what I wanted to do, but look at the viewports that are on there, right? So I'm just going to hit the escape button, and then the escape button one more time to get out of the print command. And what these viewports are, they will actually show up. So I'm just going to select these 3 viewports here. Let's go back to the Home tab, and I'm just going to put them on the depth points layer, right? Another option that you can do, and I'll go ahead and show you that if you want to create a layer. And go ahead and hit the create a new layer there. Just call it VP. What I usually like to do is make it a color that I know for sure that it'll be. And I'm just going to choose this magenta. Both of them should change. But I don't want this one to be plotted. So here's another option for you. So you can go ahead and select right here just to tell it that you don't want that to print. Go ahead and close this. Now if I select these three viewports, I'm just going to go ahead and select and put them on the viewport layer here. And then we're going to take a look at this when we print it, right? So I'm just going to go to Control P. All of the same information should appear here. And when I go to preview this time, you should see that those magenta rectangles are no longer there. So that's one of the things that I want you to remember anytime that you're creating your viewports. Make sure that you have those viewports either on the depth points layer or on its own layer. All right, so I'm just going to hit escape, and then when the print dialog box come up, go ahead and hit escape again. Next, I'm going to go ahead and place my isometric view here. So remember, that's back at the layout tab. Go to rectangular. Let's go ahead and create a rectangular one here. Double click. Now this may or may not be the exact same size. Remember, the isometric is nothing more than a picture, so it doesn't have to be the exact same size. So if I make this one, that one, the same size as the other one, and it's too big, you go, well, I don't want it to be that big. Just start going up in your list here, and then you're going to start seeing that you can adjust the size of it. So just remember that, you know, the more you kind of go up in this list, it'll kind of keep getting smaller and smaller. So you see I can make this one 1/2, which is perfect for what I need this to be. I'm just going to go ahead and lock that viewport. I'll double click on the outside. And then I'm going to make sure that I put this on the right layer, right? Because we don't want that border to show up. Oh, also you can see that I kind of left off a little tip of that at the end of that. So I'm just going to move it up. Okay. So let's go and put that on the correct layer. And it's going to be on the VP layer. Okay. All right. So now I have all of my drawing basically done here. Now it's time to put some dimensions on this. So we're going to first set up our dimension style. To do that, what I'm going to do is jump over to the Annotate tab. So we can just click here. And one of the first things I like to do in here is that underneath my dimensions, since I have a dimension layer, I'm just going to go ahead and tell my dimensions to be on that layer. If these pink boxes or viewports are getting on your nerves or they're in the way, you can always come back, come down to the drop down here, and then just turn them off by selecting the light here. Okay. Now remember that if you double click, that's the only way you get inside of those viewports. You can also see that my hidden lines are a little bit big. We can use the command called regen all, and the shortcut for it is REA. Once I hit that, you're going to see that these will adjust to the right scale type. Okay. All right. So back to the Annotate tab. We're going to select here, and then we're going to go ahead and start setting up our dimension style. So I'm just going to select this little down arrow here, and that should bring open the dimension style dialog box. It doesn't matter which one of these we use since we are in paper space. So I'm just going to use the standard. Just going to go to modify. All right, and I usually like to start from the right side and work my way to the left, right? So I'm going to start with the primary units. I don't have any decimals on the end of this, right? So except for one of them. I can leave these as fully decimaled and just tell it to say, hey, anytime you see trailing zeros, go ahead and suppress those for me. So I can leave them set to all of these. And that's really a good option here if you want to make sure that you're exactly right in all of your dimensions. Underneath the Fit tab, we don't have to do anything here because we're in paper space, so everything is by default set to 1:1. Underneath the text height, I will make this a little bit smaller, which is 0.125, and if you're wondering where I got that number from, that's kind of a standard number of text height on most of your drawings. Here we have some symbols and arrows. I'm going to leave these arrows the same. We don't have any center marks, but I'm just going to keep you in the habit of selecting here as none because we'd have put them all on by now. And then underneath the line, so the extension here, I usually like to make this the same size as I make my text height. So I'll make that 0.125. And then this extension or the offset is the distance between here, that gap. We can leave that set to whatever it is. Go ahead and hit the OK button. And we are ready to go. So I'm going to go to close. And then I'm just going to start placing some dimensions on here. So I'm going to start off with a linear dimension from here to here. Go ahead and place that dimension on. All right. Come back to linear. I'm going to place the dimension from here to here. Go ahead and place that there. Then I'll come down and I'll use the continue option. I'm sorry, it's located here. And it's going to go from the last point that I selected. So remember, super important on your order of picking your dimensions. Let's go ahead and place a dimension from, and I'm doing this on purpose, from this endpoint to this endpoint. I'll come straight down. So that way when I use my continue, it's going to go from the last point I selected, and then I'm able to select here. Now this is one of those things that I don't like that AutoCAD does sometimes. But if it bothers you, just go ahead and select the grip here, and then place it right at that midpoint. It's one of the things that bother me. So, all right, back to linear. I'll go from here to here. Now there's no need for me to go ahead and put the final dimension going across there because it is assumed that it's already set to 40. Let's go ahead and start placing some more dimensions on here. So I can go to linear. Then I can tell it that a dimension from here to here. And I'm just going to keep these in line with each other. So I'm just going to select that endpoint. I'll come back and I'm just going to hit the enter button on my keyboard to go back to the linear command again. So I'm putting a linear dimension here. And this is going to kind of speed up my keystroke here a little bit. I'm just going to keep hitting the enter button. And it's going to place a dimension here. Go to enter one more time. And I want that dimension to be, let's go ahead and send it to the bottom side. So from that endpoint to here, and click here. Let's go ahead and give it its distance here. Now I'm purposely doing this. I'm adding some extra dimensions because if you take a look here, everything that I needed to dimension is almost, or actually, is spread out amongst these two views. So anything that I put over here is extra. So you have two options here. Either you don't need this view altogether, or you can put them on there in their reference dimensions just for people to be able to look at them and go, hey, okay, that's a lot easier. All right. So I'm just going to add these dimensions and I'm going to make them reference dimensions. Okay. You know, it's nothing wrong with keeping a couple extra views. It's just depending on what kind of space that you do have. So if you don't have the space for these extra views, by all means, go ahead and take off the view. But if you do have the extra space, make sure that you label these as reference dimensions. So who's ever building this, don't take that as a real dimension. Now, one quick way of making all three of these reference dimensions is by selecting each one of those. If you want to do a right click, and you can see I already have my properties window open, but you can do a right click from here and go to properties, and that's what's going to open this properties window. They're all rotated dimensions. I'm just going to scroll down to where I get the text overwrite. I'm just going to select here. I'll start off with a open parentheses, less than, greater than, and then a close parentheses, and go ahead and hit enter. And now I can hit the escape button, and you can see that now each one of these are located or listed as a reference dimension, and that's what those parentheses mean. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed this video. It kind of broke it down for you, and hopefully showed you everything that you would need to do to create a successful drawing here in Paperspace. If you've seen something that maybe I confused you on or you quite didn't understand, by all means leave me a comment and I'll try to answer that question for you. And as always, I want to thank you for watching this video and keep drafting.